Antoine Walker made $108 million playing in the NBA. 2 years after his last game, he filed for bankruptcy. $12 million in debt, $4 million left to his name. That gap is what this video is actually about. Not just what happened to Antoine specifically, but the hidden back end working against every single NBA player's paycheck, whether they ever go broke or not. Hear me out here, guys, because some of this you've genuinely never heard explained before. Let's start with Antoine himself because his story sets up everything else here. He was drafted 6th overall by the Boston Celtics in 1996, just 19 years old. He played 13 seasons, won a championship with Miami in 2006, and also made 3 All-Star teams. So he was, respected in the NBA world and had an above-average career. And by the time he retired, guys, his career earnings sat at over $107 million. But just 2 years later, in 2010, he filed for Chapter 7 bankruptcy. A couple of things had happened. Real estate deals collapsed during the housing crash, and his gambling debts piled up so bad that he was later charged with a felony for passing bad checks tied to $770,000 in casino losses in Las Vegas. Antoine pled guilty in 2011. No prison time, but still left with a felony record. In his own words, years later, he said, "The money came so fast without the education." Walker eventually paid his way out, debt-free by August of 2013. Now he actually teaches financial literacy to young athletes, partnered with Morgan Stanley, trying to stop the next version of himself before it happens. Real quick, guys, let's give a little round of applause for that. Comment W Antoine for turning things around. You've probably heard the claim that 60% of NBA players go broke within 5 years of retirement. It gets repeated constantly. Almost every article about this topic uses that exact number, and everyone is aware about it by now. Here's what almost none of them tell you though. That number comes from a single Sports Illustrated investigation published back in March of 2009, and the NBA itself has publicly pushed back on it. A league executive named Greg Taylor told reporters directly, "We have not found any kind of research or fact based on that number. In fact, we refute that it's true." So which is it? Nobody outside the league has ever independently confirmed the exact figure. What's actually true is simpler and honestly more interesting. Whatever the real percentage is, the system players operate inside of makes losing money shockingly easy, even before anyone makes a single bad decision. So let's get into what eats into these paychecks quietly every single year. First, something called escrow. The NBA holds back about 10% of every player's salary during the season, not as a punishment. It's collected into a fund the league controls to make sure total player pay lines up with a percentage the league and the players' union agreed on years ago, most recently hammered out during the 2011 lockout that shut the league down for months. That pool of money has an actual name too, basketball-related income, or BRI for short, and players are guaranteed roughly half of it. If revenue comes in exactly as expected, players get that money back. If it doesn't, they don't. This isn't small money either. During one recent season, Steph Curry alone lost $5.1 million this way. Joel Embiid, Nikola Jokic, and Kevin Durant each lost more than $4 million. These are some of the highest paid players alive, and a chunk of their own contract just vanishes some years completely legally before they ever see it. Second, something almost nobody talks about outside of accountants, the jock tax. Here's the wild part. It's not new and it's not subtle. It traces back to a single specific moment. The 1991 NBA Finals, Bulls against the Lakers. After the series, California decided to tax the visiting Chicago players for the days they spent working in that state. Illinois retaliated almost immediately with a tax of its own, one that's still nicknamed to this day Michael Jordan's Revenge. Now, more than 20 states do this. Every road game a player plays becomes a tiny tax bill in that specific state. A typical NBA player ends up filing 15 to 20 separate state tax returns every single year just from playing basketball in different cities. And where you live still matters enormously. A player based in California pays roughly $70,000 more per million earned than a player based in Florida, purely because of where he calls home. Third, the people managing the money aren't always who you'd hope. Agent fees are capped at 4% by the players' union, which is actually a real protection most fans don't know exists. Even someone as powerful as Rich Paul, one of the biggest agents in the entire league, operates under that same 4% ceiling. But financial advisors aren't locked down the same way. In one case, a man named Joseph Lombardo, who managed investments for the players' union itself, not just individual players, pleaded guilty to trying to defraud that same union out of $3 million. Read that again. Not a random player getting scammed by a stranger, the union's own trusted advisor going after the union's own money. And Walker isn't even close to the only cautionary tale here. Latrell Sprewell made almost $100 million in his career. A few years after retiring, a U.S. Marshal seized his yacht after he he defaulted on the mortgage and his house went into foreclosure not long after that. So put all three of these together. Escrow quietly holding back pay based on numbers players don't control. A tax system that turns every road trip into new paperwork and new money owed. And an industry around these players that isn't nearly as locked down as most fans assume. None of that requires anyone to make a single bad decision. It's just what the paycheck already looks like before a player ever buys a car, a house, or takes a bad real estate deal. Now add Walker's actual choices on top of all that. The gambling, the real estate bets that failed at the worst possible time, the lifestyle that didn't slow down even after the guaranteed money stopped coming in. That's not one cause, that's several different systems plus personal choices all stacking on top of each other at the exact same time. So here's the real question this video actually leaves you with. If a system this complicated can eat into a paycheck before a player even spends $1 of it, is it really fair to call every athlete who ends up broke simply careless with money? Or is some of this happening by design, whether anyone planned it that way or not? You tell me. If you guys enjoyed this video, make sure to hit that like button and the subscribe button, and I'll see you guys next time. Peace.